Hello everyone, it's me, Marionik90. Today, I'll be returning to the world of versus battles with another Fate-centric matchup. Yeah, remember how I said I was taking a break from Fate? Times were good. Today's topic is of course, which of the two factions of servants seen in Fate Apocrypha was the superior one? Yeah, I used to think it wouldn't be that interesting of a matchup, but then I really thought about it, and before I knew it, I was making this video. Fate Apocrypha tells a story of great holy grail war in another world to Stay Nights one, where two separate factions of masters each summon 7 servants to duke it out for a holy grail in an epic 14-servant war. Apocrypha, while of course far from perfect, is dope AF, and I felt it was a good ground for some versus battles.
But Mario the Knight, isn't the whole show about servants fighting? We already saw this in the anime, what's the point?
Well, not really, no. While red and black factions did indeed duke it out in various matchups, only few were ever fighting their counterpart on the opposing side, and half the time fate is as fate does. They leave mid-fight. Taking all of this into account, let's lay down some law. How are we gonna do this? Like in my Stay Night vs Zero servants video, all battles are 1v1 between the servants of the same class on the opposing side. They do not receive any help from their masters, which already kinda was a thing in the show, with most of the red faction's masters being poisoned or something, and were only used to keep their servants materialized. All servants will have their best state from their appearance, particular to Apocrypha. We'll also be discussing alternate forms for the characters who had prep time or transformations, etc., like Semiramis or Avicebron. So the victor will be the one who wins more of those scenarios than the other. All the combatants will be in character but want to win. We'll also be looking at faction versus faction scenario, but unlike in the show, we'll take away all the extra bullshit like plans, circumstances, masters, and only have servants fighting each others as teams, without distractions. Oh, and we'll also throw the two rulers in, as they basically side with the opposed factions anyway, and I want to talk about them. And with that, let's see which faction had the stronger individual parts, as well as was better team, red or black.
Sarge, the Reds and Blues aren't fighting. We're just camped at opposite ends of the canyon in color-divided teams, while heavily armed.
True, but have you ever considered that fighting is just in our nature? It's almost instinctual. If we're not constantly trying to stab each other in the back, we'll surely die.
Starting the war with Saber vs Saber battle, we have Mordred, son of King Arthur, versus Dragon Slayer Siegfried.
Mario, Nick, this is one of those fights we saw already. What gives?
Yes, we did, Annoying Voice. Not really? What we saw in the anime was Sieg borrowing Siegfried's power for the first time, tripping over his own feet and not knowing what the f he was doing. And still, he managed to press Mordred pretty good. Like, what the f, why isn't this guy dying? He was bad, bro. They both clash MPs, with Siegfried's being noted to be stronger by the way, and Mordred only surviving thanks to range, and Mordred just can't get rid of him. If the fight was against the actual Siegfried, Mordred mightn't have fared so well. Sumanai-san, despite the memes, has the stronger armor of the two, better beam sword, and on top of that anti-dragon ability, which would make him more effective against Mordred, who inherited Artoria's Dragon Core reactor. Mor-san is awesome, but it was luck that it was Sieg on the battlefield that day. By the way, real shame I don't get to talk about the man here. People give him really hard time. I guess hoes are jealous cause my man beat Japanese Jesus and the most popular virgin in the world fell for him. But seriously, dude's a secret Chad. Anyways, that's the match. Writers just keep shitting on Mor too much for a W here. Like Artoria is so much better and Gawain beats them too, so enough said. Our second match is another one we saw in the show. Invulnerable hero of Mahabharata, Karna versus Vlad III, the king of Wallachia, and unfortunate progenitor of eternal legacy that branded him a night terror, just because he poked some people with sticks that one time, making this history's second biggest typecast. The difference between the actual series and here is that in Apocrypha, Uncle Vlad was massively empowered by the fame he received in his home country of Romania, which is constantly credited as the reason he is able to go toe-to-toe with Karna. As per general idea of versus battles, the environment should be neutral, so unfortunately Vlad loses his Giga Chad status that, mind you, was overwhelming Karna, but not even beating him. Like the dude ate Vlad's strongest move and hadn't revealed all his tricks yet. And what we know of Vlad's true power level is that, well, he's far weaker than that version of himself, so it's Karna's win for sure. The only way Vlad could even deal some damage is by piercing him from inside via Kazikli Bay, but that didn't exactly win him the fight in actual show either. But what about Vlad's ugly-ass vampire form? Normally, Vlad would never use Legend of Dracula, but for the sake of covering all of my bases, we'll use this form for a second round of our answer battle. Can the hero of charity and substitute Santa Claus triumph over immortal vampire and employer of hopeless idiots? Like, didn't we see Vlad beat the shit out of like 5 servants? He can't die even if you destroy his brain, so Karna, who was among the group of servants fighting him by the way, is fucking done. Actually, no, he might have a shot at the victory here. Looking at the fight with Vampire Vlad, servants are able to react to and weave around his onslaught despite his overwhelming power, Karna in particular, so it's not like he'd be killed immediately. And if there's no comrades or collateral damage to worry about, Karna can use his budget-destroying NP Wasabi Shakti to incinerate Vlad. Even if you think vampires in Nasuverse can't be killed via incineration by non-anti-vampire means, Wasabi Shakti is claimed to be able to kill anything, even gods, so my money is on it being able to kill Drak, more likely than not, winning Karna both matchups, unless he gets bitten, which is unlikely due to Karna's discernment of forewarning of the vampiric gift. Our archer battle sees interesting matchup between two Greek hunters and fairies, catgirl Atalanta and Chiron the centaur. At first glance, the fight seems fairly even, until you realize that Chiron bodies Atalanta in pretty much every which way. Chiron is able to shoot Atalanta's arrows out of air, and in the same passage he does that, is stated to be superior archer of the two. And even if, let's say, Atalanta could stalemate him in this regard, that would just make it battle of close combat, where she has no feats, while Chiron stomps legendary heroes in that front. And his NP is concentrated MFTL1, that's hard to dodge even for servants with top speed like Achilles, who's faster than Atalanta, while her Phoebus Catastrophe is notoriously easy to dodge by servants despite its AoE effect. Even if Atalanta has not been put into body bag by these facts alone, and you wanna consider Angrius Metamorphosis her trump card, Chiron was beating the shit out of Achilles at 100% and even outspeeds him in the manga in his centaur form, while full furry convention Atalanta got double KO'd with weaker Achilles, who had only 30% speed due to his heel being hit by Chiron. Horses beat cats in real life too, so that checks out. To add insult to injury, Chiron is also better with kids too, despite Atalanta being wannabe daycare agent.
私の願いはこの世のすべての子供らが愛される世界だ。
In the next fight, we respect the time-honored tradition of riders being the best partners you could ask for in any Fate work without exceptions. On Red Faction's corner, we have immortal hero Achilles, and on Black Faction's side, Astolfo. So hide your feet and hide your husbands. First thing many would notice is that this is a horrible mismatch. I mean, we're talking about pathetic alpha Achilles versus superior monster energy Astolfo. He may be small, but he can do it!
Barely gets nicked there once and kaboom! He's history.
Kidding. Look, guys, I've always been open about Astolfo being one of my all-time favorite Fate characters. He's the GOAT. If there ever was a Grail war I was forced to fight in and could pick literally any servant ever to summon, I'd choose Astolfo without hesitation. Sure, would give me bad odds at actually surviving, but he'd be great to hang out with. Totally worth it. Though on second thought, he's among the handful of servants that have legit won a Grail war in the past. So... Anyway, my point being, as much as I borderline obsessively love Astolfo, there's no debate here at all. Achilles can't even be damaged by non-divine things and is fast as hero, not to mention he's OP and peace. I can't even think of any joke arguments for him to lose or even be damaged. Well, I guess a valid question would be that if Astolfo was to use the aptly named Trap of Argalia and makes Achilles' lower half disappear, would that count as his heel having been hit? I don't know. They dogfight for a bit with their flying mounts, till Astolfo is overwhelmed by Achilles' sheer speed and power like weaker servants have done to him, and Achilles sadly snatches that body. So far the competition is even, so it's up to the non-combatant casters to give their team a leg up. William fucking Shakespeare of Red Faction versus Avicebron, Golem Master of Black, is pretty interesting fight, as both are physically among the bottom tier servants, but have very useful abilities. Shake, Spears, and P, First Folio, would mentally incapacitate Advicebron, just like it did to Frankenstein. We are made very aware of his skills and character flaws after all, but I don't know. Upon deeper look, what does Shakespeare do after he is reduced Avicebron into mental wreck? Snap his neck? Really out of character for sure, but if we just say he doesn't need to kill to win, or he's just bloodlusted somehow, I don't think he'll even get to use the folio, at least not the way he did it on Frankenstein. First of all, he'd need to be on range to use it, and as soon as the fight starts, Avicebron would just manifest a small army of his golem boys to fight, and Shakespeare would get cockeyed at that point, as those things can somewhat fight servants, let alone famously weak William. Avicebron is also far faster than him, so he's sure to get his attacks off before the playwright, as he has ridiculous feats of somewhat reacting to Chiron's arrows and Achilles' chariot, despite his agility being only D. Again, like I pointed out in other Fate videos, parameters versus feats just be like that sometimes, and we all know feats are the stuff that's actually important. If we take this to the second round, I don't see why we need to. Avicebron destroys Shakespeare even harder with Golem Keter Malkuth that's so OP that Siegfried, Mordred, Astolfo, Chiron, and Jeanne all needed perfect plan to take it out. Like this. To be or not to be, the answer is fucking not. Seriously, Avicebron is prep time god. If all goes to plan and he has superb materials, he can solo entire Lost Belt for God's sake, while Potato Head Shakespeare depends on puny human master to do fighting for him. Granted, I've always held the belief that he might secretly be really overpowered, like he seems to treat the world as his play and has other strange feats in FGO especially, but that's just speculation. If this was a free-for-all, he'd probably win. I mean, he has self-preservation skill. He'd just run away while others kill each other. Black Faction takes the lead again. The assassin battle sees two vicious murderers face off. Queen of Poison Semiramis versus Terror of London Jack the Ripper. No, not that one. That one's great, but no. Getting warmer? There we go.
Who the hell are you?
Ah, lolis, that precious disappearing natural resource after the Reddit holocausts of 2016 onwards. The battle. It's clear that Jack is gonna lose here, and I'm not even taking Hanging Gardens of Babylon into account, as Semiramis needs extensive prep time and materials to construct them, whatever FGO may claim. No, just base Semiramis. She may seem to have lesser parameters of the two, but again, who has the actual feats here? Jack gets owned by literally every servant from Mordred to Atalanta, while Semiramis is fully capable of reacting to and fighting full power Mordred and Achilles. And as soon as she uses Sikera Usum, all things will be transformed into poison, even air and mana inside Jack, and that'll be that.
Your poison running through my
And you thought Magellan's poison was bad. While Maria the Ripper would be effective against Semiramis, it's more likely that she'd just use her scales or chains to block it. I'm not sure if she has access to those outside of Hanging Gardens, but hey, Sikarousum is her primary NP as assassin, so she definitely has that, and other poisons that Jack will get f***ed by in fair fight with no element of surprise. And no, the mist is not gonna help. That's the first thing Semiramis turns into poison, and she can probably still detect Jack in it or dispel it entirely with Magecraft. Oh yeah, the prep time round. Need I say more? Jack the Ripper will forever stay unidentified, because there will be nothing left to identify after Mommy Semiramis is done with her. Next we have Berserker of Red, Spartacus versus Berserker of Black, Frankenstein. There's not a whole lot to this matchup. Both have feats of somewhat scaling to lower high tier servants. Spartacus could threaten both Atalanta and Jeanne with his attacks while not amped to his maximum, while Fran could briefly swap hands with Mordred, but only after command spell amp. And her Blast 3 suicide attack could have taken her out too, those being her only worthwhile showings. Regardless, the victory is clear. Spartacus's crying warmonger makes him surpass his limits upon him being damaged and healing, so the more Fran fights him, the stronger he'll be. Only the Blast 3 would be able to kill him. But Fran is unfortunately just as cute and fragile of a flower as she looks, and would be easily uprooted by Spartacus, even if she boosted herself to her limit. The muscle boy also has pretty much limitless stamina and would outlast. While the Blast 3 could probably one-shot, Spartacus would just beat Fran up more often than not, before it comes to that. The tournament would no doubt end in victory of Red faction here, but as I said, we are including the two ruler class servants who picked sides during the conflict. On the red side, the true mastermind, symbol of Shimabara rebellion, probably the leader of Ends in the Drifters manga, nastier than guy that cheats at solitaire, Amakusa Shirou Tokisada, and for black side, Maiden of Orleans and Saint with probably the most adaptations in media, Jeanne d'Arc.
Mario the 90. What are you fucking doing? We saw this fight in the anime too. Jeanne used her fire flower power up, and Shirou's black hole thing ate it while she turned into a turd. Father Konomino Bukakes.
For one, I'm impressed that you got that far into Apocrypha despite just being a voice in my head. I used to voice potential counterpoints, but I suppose you missed the most important thing about La Pucelle Noble Phantasm. Jeanne will never use it unless her foe is absolute threat to the world that needs to be destroyed. Also, it's not like she'd just sacrifice herself to win a random fight in character. If she was willing to use it, which she is not, sure, Amakusa would have a perfect counter to it, but the battle would probably not even get that far. Amakusa Shirou is noted to be not too strong of a combatant or mage compared to other servants, and certainly not on the level of high tiers. He only beat vampire form Vlad via his weakness to holy relics, and he got clowned on by injured Sieg, who couldn't even become Siegfried, while Jeanne actually garners respect from high tiers and has good feats of fighting likes of Ku, Tamamo, Atalanta Altar, and blocking OP attacks with her Luminosity Eternal from likes of Spartacus and Fafnir. Literally, if Amakusa tries to pull his black hole shit, it's gonna be negged. Though I don't even know if Jeanne needs Luminosity to neg the gravity, since you know, it along with most of Amakusa's kit is Magecraft, while Jeanne has EX rank magic resistance. Jeanne is actually stronger than people think. Most of the time she's just nerd for the Wario's plot reasons, and honestly scales to lower top tiers pretty easily. Anyway, point goes to Black faction. So basically, Red wins individual bouts if rulers are not counted, but it's a tie when they are. Now, only way we can settle this with is an all-out brawl, like in the anime, but this time with all the servants actually working together and no bullshit like stealing Grail midway, just a good old smackdown with the goal to take out all the members of the opposing team. thing with this match is that it's hard. I mean, there's all sorts of variables to how it could go, so much possibilities on what each combatant would do more often than not. I mean, it's way too difficult to determine. So let me just try and outline a general idea of how the other team would triumph. I think that's about the best I can do for now. For starters, without any prep time like there was in the show, Black faction will not have their numbers advantage, aka homunculi and golems, but let's face it, those are fodder, and hardly threat to any of the servants here anyway. But Red faction will lose something far more advantageous with the Hanging Gardens, significantly nerfing one of their strongest members. If we assume neutral battleground with the two factions just staring each other down, the more combat-heavy servants would likely just engage each other, and the more range-based fighters would fight each other or support their close combat teammates, kinda like in the actual war, while support servants like casters would try to get as far as they could and begin supporting their allies, assuming that they won't get caught in the mayhem, like Karna might just do a big ooga booga blast, and bam, Shakespeare and Jack are dead just for being too close. I guess he has to restrain himself not to blow his teammates to hell. Though it's more than likely that the fights will section off into 1v1 battles, kinda like in the actual war, and the individual victors of those battles decide the outcome. Obviously, it's too hard to say how quickly each combatant would dispatch their opponent and go help the others, and who'd they pick, so again, I'll just stick to generalizing. Big thing we need to address that makes this battle utter bullshit are the biggest game-changing dick moves, or rather, how Red faction will take shit on Black faction at every meaningful turn.
You know, I really can't thank you enough for leaving your tank completely unattended. It was very kind of you, old chap. Makes your defeat and humiliation so much easier.
Yeah? Well, great. Glad we could help. I'm sure if you give us enough time, we'll just kill ourselves. Save you some ammo.
If it makes you feel any better, your death is for a very noble cause.
Church! I am coming to help! Don't start without me!
It's the idiot. Take care of him, quickly.
Caboose! No! Stay back! Don't get near the tank! Ah!
Red faction has access to Shakespeare's enchant skill, strongest attack and defense in the entire war via Vasavi Shakti and Achilles Cosmos, Amakusa's black holes that he can use to absorb incoming noble phantasms to protect his team, and most important of all, Achilles' immortality. Shakespeare's ability to add concepts to objects and people have allowed regular ass masters to defeat servants, and if applied to his teammates, well, imagine if Karna or Achilles gets that. Granted, in character he probably wouldn't do that, but if we assume he's for some reason dead set on winning as the rules state, he probably would be able to do that. Also, while Jeanne's defense is superior to Amakusa's, she'd likely be the one to first exhaust herself by throwing herself between her teammates to protect them, while Shirou would stay back and use his big crunch only if absolutely necessary. He's meticulous like that. Spartacus's constant amps may also prove useful, though he'll eventually go off the rails and end up hindering his own team and take in so much damage that he'll blow up like in the anime, which has 50-50 chance of being useful to red team or f***ing them over, but it's not like it's big deal. That being said, pretty much nothing I've said past few minutes actually matters, as red faction has Achilles. It is made very clear that only person on black side even capable of harming him is Chiron, as literally no one else there has any divinity. Immediately upon fight starting, Chiron would need to abandon his support position to go fight him, leaving Red faction's artillery game largely unopposed. And well, we know how fight between Achilles and Chiron goes. If Chiron can't even damage Achilles' heel before he goes down, the entire battle will be default over, as Achilles is just gonna outlast everyone on black team. Or maybe one of the people he fights manages to hit his heel at some point. I mean, no one's not gonna know the most famous weak point in human history, come on. But even so, he's stated to be far stronger than anyone on opposing team, without his immortality anyway. And besides, what are you gonna do? Catch the fastest heroic spirit? From this, I can basically conclude that the heavy hitters will carry this battle. Karna can beat Vlad, Achilles can beat Chiron, and Mordred is so even with Siegfried that red teammates that are free to support will help even the odds on that front, whilst Spartacus will likely keep Jeanne from being useful.
And what, the rest just hang themselves?
Pardon?
What about the teamwork, though?
Oh, that argument. Not only can Karna or full power Achilles solo most of the opposing team with Vlad and Chiron out the way, the red team has surprisingly the better synergy here. Not only has their caster actual useful support abilities, Amakusa is a fucking supervillain genius, which is especially useful if Chiron is already taken out. And they also have actual teamwork feats in the show pre-Grail being stolen. Not to mention how on top of that, Semiramis might be able to release her poison and make it so that it's lethal only to the opposing team. I'm not saying that she actually can do that, but if she can, f this game. While it's true that Black Team has good tacticians on their side, they'd probably just be overwhelmed by the sheer power and diversity of their opponent's arsenals. Not to mention that some of their abilities, like Mist, are pretty much just self-sabotaging. And since no one on their side has Achilles Cosmos, they can't just eat Wasabi Shakti. So if Karna decides it's appropriate to use it, Black Team is done for. In conclusion, Red Faction sweeps with some difficulty, and the situation will likely stay the same even if rulers are left out. So, how about all of that extra BS? Hanging Gardens, Keter Malkuth and so on? Black Faction does get more stuff, but let me just stop this right here. Reds are easily the more significant ones. No, not the Angry Cat Lady, get out! No, the Hanging Gardens, that. We've seen Black Faction have a hard time to invade it already, and since Semiramis can just use it to levitate her entire team, also protecting weaker members like Shakespeare, they can just sit back and aerial bombard the hell out of everyone as soon as the fight starts, with the only ones left standing being Siegfried, Vampire Lad, Astolfo via Casse or the Logistilla, Keter Malkuth, and anyone Jeanne may have been able to protect, which she can't do repeatedly. Keter Malkuth is stated to be soloable by Achilles or Karna, and they don't even need to deal with Vlad, as Amakusa will exercise him in like 2 seconds, leading to much more favorable starting and winning conditions for the Red Faction. The Guard is seriously such an overpowered force. Chiron or Siegfried can't even bomb it, thanks to its defenses, and on top of all of that, it elevates Semiramis into being one of the top 3 strongest characters in the war. The only thing that could destroy the Gardens in fell swoop would be La Pucelle, but again, the black hole thing. Plus, Achilles Cosmos can stop that too, not to mention other noble phantasms thrown by the Black Faction. Oh yeah, what the fuck is anyone on Black side supposed to do to Achilles Cosmos anyhow? Fuck that shield. I think the case is thus clear and closed. Red Faction is overall stronger of the two teams here, and I guess that's not surprising. In the actual show, the Black ended up being the underdog. While the 1v1 matches result in tie, Black Faction gets dominated in all-out conflict, and that puts the bow on it. This is however not the final word on the matter, and I'm willing to discuss alternate takes with you all down in the comments as always. But now, I'll be taking a break from Fate content. For real this time. Will I ever do that Stay Night characters vs Tsukihime video? We'll see. Regardless, as an enjoyer of the franchise, I'm super duper excited for the Strange Fake anime finally coming out. And I'm also looking forward for other super cool future releases. We are in good hands, it seems. As for me, I'ma head out. Thank you for watching. Check out other stuff from the channel. I do power scales and random crap. You'll like it here. Hit the bell, like the video, etc. Bye-bye.